Hello again, this is Tony Wright, First Love Christian Church, or FLCC, and A.B. Wright Ministries. This is the 90-day Bible study. We're on day 17. We're in Joshua 15, chapter 1st verse, going through Judges 3rd chapter and the 27th verse. Look here. Well, you know, Brother Joshua is just slashing through the cities and the countries of Canaan as God gives him steady resolve and guidance. Now, as we closed out yesterday's reading, Israel had defeated 31 kings, and the tribes were dividing the lands of their inheritance. Now, as we enter today's reading, Israel is still dividing their inheritance. But boy, I noticed a big difference early on, though. Did you see that? You know, where it said that as for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem until this day. Yep. And that continues to be a problem for Israel unto this day. Are you kidding me? And the Ephraimites couldn't drive out all the Canaanites from Giza. And the same for the children of Manasseh. Still, all that God had set forth being fulfilled. The 48 cities to be given to the tribe of Levi were carved out. And from those, the 6 cities of refuge were established. Finally, man, all the land promised to the fathers of the children of Israel was given to them. And these people possessed it and dwelt in those lands. And boy, just like the Lord had promised, Israel was now finally at rest. And all of their enemies, they were defeated. Now God had promised to deliver them deliver those countries into Israel's hand. And surely God had done so. As the Bible said, none of the good things that God had spoken of failed to be true. But all, I mean everything, had come to pass. Then, just as they had agreed, Joshua called the tribes that were given the land on the east side of the Jordan, and he told them that they had done all they had sworn. So now they could return to their inherited land. Now, on the way back into their land, after they crossed back over the Jordan, they built a great altar. Boy, when the other tribes heard about this, they gathered and they prepared to go to war against them. They sent Phinehas, you know, the son of Eleazar, and 10 others, one from each tribe in the land of Canaan, over to them. Now, you remember Phinehas. He was the one that drove the sword through the dude that brought the Midianite woman to the tent back when they were in the plains in Moab. This could be a problem. You know what I mean? Well, they came to the tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh, and they asked them, have you lost your mind? You know we can't turn against God, and you come back over here and build an altar? What are you doing? And you know God is going to go off on all of us. If you don't think your land is fit to live in, then come back over and live with us. But don't turn your back on God, and don't turn your back on us. Did you forget what happened to Achan? His foolishness caused God's wrath on all of us. Look here, boy. It kind of looks like God has finally gotten these people's attention, doesn't it? But these cats here, they're scared of bejesus, man. Did you see that? Any other time, everybody would have been just jumping on the same old pile of mess, you know. Anyway, the tribes told them that God could be a judge of whether what they did was meant to be in rebellion. And if it was meant for transgression against God, then God shouldn't save them. They said that this altar that they built was to be a witness between them and their children for generations to come, that they might remember that both the tribes in the east and in the west share the same commitment to God. Hoo-wee, boy, I bet Phinehas was relieved to hear that. Now, they went back to tell the children of Israel, the other children of Israel, and they were all pleased with that answer. Fast forward, though. At this time, you know, as time went by and Joshua aged, he called for the elders and told them that they've seen the things that God had done for them and how he had driven out the nations and how God had fought for them. But now they needed to make sure to keep and do all that was written in the book of the law of Moses. Now, he reminded them that they're not to turn to the left nor to the right, but they're to cleave to God and to love him and to follow him. Well, there's just one little bitty issue out there that will no doubt is going to cause some problems. Remember those inhabitants that weren't driven out by some of the tribes? And Joshua told them that God was not going to drive out any more of the nations. But these would, just as God had warned them, be snares and traps to them, and scourges in their sides, and thorns in their eyes, until they perish from the land that God had given them. What? Oh my goodness. That is going to be a problem. You hear me? These dudes can't take any thorn stuff. You know what I mean? They're going to fail on this one for sure. Anyway, Joshua continues to exhort them just to follow God. And he continues to remind them that God has not failed them, not even on one of his promises. And Joshua told them that he's going to soon die. But as long as they keep the covenant with God, that they will continue to be blessed. But when they break the covenant, they will be destroyed. Boy, spoiler alert on that one. God has already told Joshua and them that they would turn against him and start taking on the practices of those around him. See, if they had followed his instructions to begin with and cleared out all the inhabitants, then they might stand a better chance. But they literally have enemies in the camp. What in the world? Let's get up out of it. But Joshua told them to serve the Lord with sincerity and with truth, and to stay away from idol worship. He said they need to choose who they would serve. But as for him, Joshua, and his house, he was going to serve the Lord. Now, did you notice the place where they were when Joshua was talking to them? They were in Shechem, where Levi and Simeon killed the whole city about Dinah. Fast forward. Anyway, Joshua died, and he was buried in his inherited land near Mount Ephraim. And the bones of Joseph were buried there in Shechem as well. And they also buried Eleazar near Mount Ephraim. Well, after Joshua died, the people were asking who would lead them. And God told them that the tribe of Judah would lead them. And under the leadership of Judah, God gave them victories over the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Judah also, though, led the people in defeating the Canaanites in Jerusalem and in Hebron. But as we've seen already, there were still people that these children of Israel let live and stay among them. And I don't know how in the world they thought this was going to go well. And what happened? Okay, here we go. They got a visit from an angel of God who rebuked them about making agreements with inhabitants of the land. He reminded them that the covenant was to tear down the altars and to make no league or no covenant with the people, inhabitants of those lands. And they were reminded that these people were to be as thorns in the sides of Israel, and the gods of these people would be a snare for them. You think snare? Man, these idol gods to Israel are like big giant magnets are to metal shavings. Are you kidding me? But at least they were able to remain faithful during the life of Joshua, and for as long as the elders that lived after Joshua still lived. But as soon as they were all gone, they turned against God and they worshiped other gods. And God left them to their own demise for a while. But then God gave them judges that would be able to lead them out of the hands of their oppressors. But we could probably have predicted that Israel was going to go back and forth between serving God and following their own selfish instincts. Boy, that's Israel. And God was going to use that environment that they were in that resulted from their disobedience to test Israel and to see when or if they were willing to follow him. Boy, these jokers are like addicts, declaring anything to get whatever they felt was needed at the moment, then going right back to the comfort of their habit. So it wasn't long before they were marrying among the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites. And it wasn't long before they were worshiping the gods of those countries. So bam, it wasn't long before they found themselves in bondage for 8 years. And then guess what? They cried out to God. And they were rescued by Caleb's nephew, Othniel. For 40 years they had peace again until Othniel died. And then they went right back to evil. And God allowed the king of Moab to attack them and take them captive. And they served King Eglon for 18 years. So what did Israel do? Yep, cried out to God again. God heard their cries, and he sent Ehud. And Ehud killed Eglon and escaped. And Ehud led the people of Israel, and they defeated the Moabites. And this time, the land was at peace for 80 years until Ehud died. Well, I know that you know how this is going to go. And I also know that you know that I got to get out of here. So you keep reading, brothers and sisters. Keep checking us out on your favorite social media platform. And for the love of all that's good, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, FLCC, we're still on the move. We're taking ministry back to the first love. See you soon. Peace.